Hello my friends and welcome back. If this is your first stop here to Total OS, well, hi. This channel was and is designed for all 1 billion Windows users who are considering, some of you may be considering to try Linux or maybe tried Linux in the past and you thought it sucked. Times have changed. Some Linux can be a very satisfying experience. I test Linux on real-world Windows machines. Maybe some of you are fed up with Windows 10, don't care with Windows 11 and want an alternative. Some Linux can be an alternative as we try to dissect, remove any of the fluff or misinformation out there that you may have come across, and that's what I've tried to do here over the years. All right, one of my favorites, Linux Mint, as some of you know, maybe my first choice for Windows users, maybe. Sometimes I'll browse into the forums, and this got my attention. Zorg has been forked. Okay. One of the largest contributors to the Zorg project has decided to fork it. He says the Zorg people are content to let it become obsolete and die, but not everyone is all that fond of Wayland. That is true, and a lot of software just isn't Wayland ready yet. That is also true. All right, so Xlibre project's fork of the Zorg X server with lots of code, cleanups, and enhanced functionality. This fork was necessary. It stays here. And we'll take a look at that page here in a moment. Someone says, that's great. It's always good to have alternatives. I would have to agree. Linux is all about choice. And for the record, before I forget, I am running Ubuntu with Wayland and not Zorg. And for the most part, it works. I've lost some of the functionality in OBS Studio. It's not all that of a big deal for me. But just to let you know, for this one, I am using Ubuntu with Wayland. And this, by the way, is a beautiful picture of southern Italy. Look at that blue water. Okay. So apparently a gentleman has decided to fork the X11 display driver, call it Xlibre. I think it's a great name for what it's worth. Xlibre's fork of the Zorg X server with lots of code cleanups and enhanced functionality. The fork was necessary since toxic elements within Zorg projects, moles from big tech, are boycotting any substantial work on Zorg in order to destroy the project, to eliminate competition for their own products. Classic, embrace, extend, extinguish. Sounds like a new Mission Impossible movie. All right, so right after first journalists began covering the planned forked Xlibre on June 6, 2025, Red Hat employees started a purge on the Xlibre founder's GitLab account on freedomfreedesktop.org, deleted the Git repo, tickets, merge, requests, etc., and fired the shots at the whole world heard. This is an independent project, not at all affiliated with big tech or any of the subsidiaries or tax evasion tools, political activists, actors. Okay. Before I continue, let me just say this about politics, and I'll stop it right here. Have you noticed in this country that no matter who's president, I keep seeing the same potholes over and over and over again? So that's my thought about politics in general. All right. Let's see. He says here, it doesn't matter which country you're coming from, your political views, your race, sex, age, your food menu, whether you wear boots or heels, whether you're furry, fairy, Conan, McCake. All right. Or just a boring average person. Anybody's welcome who's interested in bringing X forward. Okay, so that's the latest I got for this new Xlibre display server for Linux. GitHub page that I found it to be quite interesting. I don't know how much of it is accurate. Those of you who use Linux full-time, let me know, because again, I do not use Linux full-time. And if you can't use the software in Linux, what's the point of using any Linux? And this would be true for Windows too, by the way. If you can't use your specific software in Windows, why use Windows? This is from Pro Bono PD on a GitHub page. I hope I said that right, sir. All right. Think twice before abandoning Zorg. Wayland breaks everything. I don't know if it breaks everything. All right, let's move down here. The Wayland project seems to operate like they were starting a greenfield project, whereas the same time they tried to position Wayland as the X11 successor, which would clearly require a lot of thoughts about not breaking or at least providing a smooth upgrade path for existing software. Things break. Wayland is broken by design. You cannot do a lot of things that you can do in Zorg by design. You can't do some things based on my experience. And we've talked about screen recording applications. For me, as a Linux/Windows user, installing Linux on Windows machines, not virtual machines, not running off a USB, on real-world tests. The only screen recorder that works so far is OBS Studio, period, on multiple tests. Now, there's nothing wrong with OBS Studio, but if Linux is all about choice, and I have a choice of only one, OBS Studio, that doesn't seem like it's a lot about choice. At least I don't see it that way. All right. Wayland breaks screen sharing applications such as we have Jitsi here and Zoom. This I don't know. So you guys let me know. Wayland breaks automation software. Again, this I'm not sure. Wayland breaks GNOME global app menu, global menus for GNOME. Again, don't know about that. But to this page in Wayland breaks app images, they don't ship a special Wayland Qt plugin. I did notice after installing Ubuntu that I did have to run something in the terminal to make this work. Now, look. As a Windows user, I don't mind using the terminal. After so many years of using Linux, I don't mind. But I can't, in good conscience, tell a new Linux user to forcibly use the terminal to fix something. It's not fair. Now, eventually they will learn to use the terminal and find it to be kind of fun. I know terminal is fun, really. Yes, it is, Windows user. A Linux terminal can be fun. But you should not be forced to use the terminal. And I think that's why Chromebooks sell, because in Chromebooks you never use the terminal. All right, Wayland breaks Redshift, breaks global hotkeys. Something about Wayland not working at XFC. Wayland does not work properly on NVIDIA software. That's what you guys are telling me, by the way, and I believe you. Oh, wait, it doesn't work properly on Intel hardware. Wayland is biased toward Linux and breaks BSD. I don't use BSD, so I know nothing about that. And there's more here. So, look, Wayland has been in development since 2008. We're looking at almost 20 years now. How am I supposed to answer that as a Windows user? Or telling someone new to Linux, what advice can I give a Windows user, a Linux newbie? Right now, I would say, well, don't use Wayland and forget about any Linux-based system that uses the GNOME desktop, such as Ubuntu, what you see here. I don't mind using Ubuntu for testing purposes. I have multiple machines, dual booting. If something breaks in Ubuntu, I'm okay. I'm not going to say that Linux sucks, because some Linux is wonderful, such as Linux Mint and Chromebooks and so on. But if you are new to all this, which path can I lead you toward so you will never say that Linux sucks? Stick with your Linux Mint. That's a good one. There may be a few others out there that you guys maybe can recommend. But right now, until this gets resolved, and I guess GNOME is going to drop X support next year, right? Which will cause potential problems for Ubuntu. So I don't know where Ubuntu goes from there. That's going to be a problem. For me, it doesn't matter. I'll just stop using Ubuntu and go back to my Linux Mint and Chromebook and whatever else is out there that does not rely on Wayland. But for a newbie, for a Linux newbie right now, I would probably stick with Linux Mint. The Mate desktop does not use the Wayland display driver, and it works perfectly fine. That is what I dual boot with, and it's perfectly fine. So, this Wayland, Zorg, Xzorg, Xlibre, is this a mess right now? I think for Windows users, this has the potential to be a mess and confusion, but hopefully a video like this where I explain to you that Linux does have multiple options in today's world, and you don't have to use anything that is based on Wayland or the GNOME desktop.